ידיד נפש, אהבה רחמן, משוכב דם, רצונה, ירוץ עבדם, כמו היה, ישתחווה. מול העולם ירב לו ידידותה מנוף וצוף וחותה ירב לו offensive וכל טעם חביב עליי את סוכת שלום תאיר ארץ מכבודך נגילה היי ונשמחה בהר אהוב כי במועד בכל עיני כי מעולם בהר אהוב כי במועד בכל עיני כי מעולם
I am so excited to have Cantor Rosalie Will with us for our Shabbat service. Cantor, welcome.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. It's good to be here.
Shabbat Shalom. It is good to be here with you and with all of you. You may have noticed that I am here in the Beit HaTefillah at Temple Emmanuel of South Hills, and I can't wait for the day. That day should be coming somewhat soon as we fine-tune our processes that we can begin to welcome you back into this space. But I'm excited to be with all of you in this virtual space as together we sing, as together we pray our way into Shabbat, beginning with words of Hine Ma Tov, which you can find on page 10.
How good it is, how good it is, how sweet it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. That's call and response. We each bring our voice to this moment. We each in our own way are saying, Hineni, here I am, how good it is, how good it is. But we all sing together to be together on this day. So even though we can't hear each other, we answer that call one to the other. How good it is, how good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine Ma Tov, Hine Ma Tov, Umanayim sheberachim gam yachad. Hine Ma Tov, Umanayim sheberachim gam yachad.
It is indeed good. It is indeed wonderful to be together on this day. Shabbat Shalom to Bob and Lori and Penny and David, Nancy and Will, Lainey and Greg, everyone who is joining us from near and far for our Shabbat evening service. I'm Rabbi Aaron Meyer, and along with Cantor Rosalie Will, we are excited to join you in prayer, to join you in song as we continue in page 12 of Mishkan Tefillah, our congregation's prayer book. On page 12, we find words of Lechu Neranena from Psalm 95, and I invite you to join us.
there's a story told that was told to me by a friend who was told to him by another one of his friends. Two friends were walking down a very busy street, perhaps in a very big city like Manhattan or a loud city like that. And these two friends were walking down the street of a wide boulevard. And on this street, mostly all you could ever hear was the honking of the taxi cabs and the squeal of the bike messenger brakes and the dinging of the bells. And these two friends, as they were walking down the street, one turned to the other and stopped her and said, "Did you hear that?" And she said, "Did I hear what?" The first friend said, "Oh my goodness, did you hear that? That's unbelievable." And she says, "I don't really hear anything. All I hear is the honking of the taxi cabs and the squeal of the bus brakes and the dinging of the bike messenger bells and all of this talking." The first friend says, "This is amazing. Come with me." And they continue to walk, and they get to the corner of the street, and they stop. And they turn and they wait for the light to change across this very busy street. And meanwhile, all that's happening is the honking of the taxi cabs and the squealing of the bus brakes and the dinging of the bike messenger bells and all of this talking. They cross the street at the light, and they head back down on the opposite side of the street, back the way they came, on the other side. And the man again turns to his friend and says, "Oh my goodness, did you hear that?" And she says, "I don't know what you're talking about. All I hear is the honking and the brakes and the dinging of the bells and all of this talking." He says, "Come with me." And they finally get back to the middle of the street, about opposite where they started, on the other side. And in a storefront window, there's a little box with some plants beginning to grow at the beginning of spring, just like this season. The man says to his friend, "Come look." And they go up to this little window box where these little sprouts are growing, and he says, "Look." They lean over and they peer into this window box. And inside the window box is a cricket. And he turns to his friend, he says to her, "Isn't that amazing?" She says, wait a minute, you mean to tell me on the other side of this wide avenue, when all we can hear is the honking of the taxi cabs and the squealing of the bus brakes and the dinging of the bike messenger bells and all this talking, you heard that cricket?" He says, "Watch this." Reaches into his pocket and he pulls out a quarter. And he holds it out in front of him. And he lets go and drops it. Bing! It hits the ground. At that moment, everything stops. No honking. No squealing of bus brakes, no dinging of bike messenger bells, no talking. Everyone turns to look. And the young man turns to his friend and says, "You see, it all depends on what you're listening for. It all depends on what you're listening for." So many times we get caught up in the noise and the bustle of what we think matters or what we think is important, and those things, of course, are important. But sometimes that sound fills our thoughts, our expectations, are weak. And the beauty of Shabbat, the beauty of being together, is being able to just shift a little bit what we listen for. Like those people who might listen to a coin or get distracted by all the hubbub, but this one individual was able to hear that cricket. Why? Because he was listening for that, listening for the moments of beauty, listening for something that was out of the ordinary and miraculous. In tonight's tefillah, as we travel through Shabbat together, letting go of our week, celebrating with joy and gratitude, family, bar and bat mitzvah, celebrations, moments of mourning, there might be melodies that are familiar to you, perhaps new ways of hearing our prayers. I encourage you to listen for those crickets, listen for those moments that are a little bit unexpected, and why they might matter, why those moments of uplift could bring new thinking and new joy to your Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
There are indeed so many moments that matter, and we are so excited to have Cantor Will with us to celebrate the start of Shabbat. And we're excited what a Shabbat it is going to be. For tomorrow morning, Eitan Schwartz, the son of Rabbi Jessica Lockitz and Larry Schwartz, becomes bar mitzvah, and as part of tonight's service leads us in candles and kiddush. If you are lighting your candles at home with us, I invite you to grab those now as we turn first to page 2 and then page 5 in our prayer book.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher tishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'echad likner Shabbat Shalom. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pori hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava u'ratzon Ichilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit Kihu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher letziyat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'charta V'tanu kidasha Mikol amim V'shabbat kodecha V'yahava u'ratzon Ichaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
We welcome, just like all of the family and friends, together to celebrate this wonderful day, this bar mitzvah. Congratulations to the family, whom I've also known for a long time. We greet all of those who are not yet perhaps come through our doors, but are in our spirit, in our hearts, ready to come celebrate Shabbat with us. Page 20. Lecha dodi, likar kala, penei Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha dodi, likar kala, penei Shabbat, nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, ishmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem al tiferet v'litchila lecha dodi, likad kala, penei Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha dodi, likad kala, penei Shabbat, Likrat Shabbat, lechu v'nelcha, ki hi mekor habracha, mirosh mikadem nesucha, sofa hase b'machshavat tchila, lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, nekalela. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, Verse 5. Itoreri, kiva ore, kumi ori, uri, shudabiri, kvod Adonai alayich nigla lecha dodi, likad kala, penei Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha dodi, likad kala, penei Shabbat, Verse 9, if it is your custom, many of us rise for different occasions. We rise 2 occasions. Sometimes it is with our body, sometimes our spirit when we rise and stand for things. So as you are willing, as you are able to rise and turn to a door of the space, perhaps you entered your room, your home, and imagine all of those welcomed guests coming through those doors. Verse 9. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, גם בשמחה וצהלה, רוחנונים סגולה, בואי חלה page 26. Yitkada Shmei Rabbah Belma Divrach Chirutei V'Yamlich Malchutei B'chayechon Uv'yomechon Uv'chayei Dechon Beit Yisrael Bagala Uvizman Kari V'imeru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'alam Le'almei Almaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitba'ar V'yitroman V'yitnaseh V'yithadar V'yit'ale V'yithalal Shmei Dekudesha B'richu Leila Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tush Bechata V'nechemata Tamira Me'alma V'yimeru Amen. Ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la, ya la 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 la. If you are standing, please be seated. For Ma'ariv Aravim, this moment that we acknowledge the beauty of the evening of our natural surroundings, which is universal, regardless of our faith, of our background, the traditions we come from, our various beliefs about the world or about God and theology. This is a moment to say the natural world is extraordinary and works in beautiful ways. So for Ma'ariv Aravim, this might sound familiar to you. Feel free to sort of sing along or hum along. Much of it's in Hebrew, but there will be a part in English you may know. You won't have lyric for all of it, but at the end, you'll know what to do. We'll join in the Chatima, the final statement, just to summarize what we've just sang together. On page 30, the Chatima at the end, Baruch Atah Adonai Ma'ariv Aravim, blessed are you who brings on the evening. So when we get there, I think you'll know what to sing. כשאני רואה בחלוני את שמוריק לך וגם לי, אני שר לעצמי איזה אחלה עולם. השמיים חולים, אנחנו לבן, והבוקר בהיר ובלילה ישן, ואחלום לעצמי איזה אחלה עולם. וכל צבעי הקשת יפים וחדשים, פרוסים אחרי הגשם על פני האנשים, והיום כה יפה וקל לי כל כך לומר שאני אוהב אותך. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day and dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Thank you, Cantor Will. On the bottom of page 33, and I mean the very bottom, the beautiful footnote on page 33, Torah is what God has revealed to us and what we discern of God, ideas and ideals, laws and mitzvot, our religious heritage. It unfolds our memories of Abraham and Sarah, of Moses and Miriam and the prophets. It is legislation and explanation, allowing questions that challenge, answers that inspire, all a quest for meaning. It is our way of life, a path for our souls, and the design for a better world. If indeed this is what our Torah is, as John Rayner says, then prayer is our reminder, our remembrance, our opportunity to focus on Torah, on our highest values and ideals, on who we want to be, not only as an expression of our love for God, but God's love for us. At this point in our service, we continue pages 34 and 35, the watchwords of our faith, Shema Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. On page 40. This moment of Michamocha, this cry of freedom, starts with a cry for freedom and then becomes the cry of freedom. The dance, the joy, the exaltation, and this joy that everyone might feel on arrival into freedom is universal. In every generation, in every place, the desire to fight tyranny and oppression is part of every story and every heritage, and goes on and on through the generations. Even as we in the past few weeks have moved from Yom HaShoah, the remembrance of the Holocaust, towards Yom HaAtzmaut, the celebration and the joy and the gift of the building of Israel, from trauma to building, we celebrate what it meant and what it means to so many to go from slavery into a place of freedom. But even with this cry of freedom, we cannot feel as joyous when we know that there are still those who are not yet free. And particularly in these days, when the cry of freedom is still heard so loudly on our streets. It reminds me of what Representative John Lewis said to a bunch of young people who were gathering to stand up against violence and hatred a few years ago before he died. He said to these young people, remembering his own fight for justice, "Don't give up, don't give in. Keep your eyes on the prize." And it harkens back to a melody not our own, but of the civil rights. But it connects our story of a desire for freedom with the struggle of so many today who are standing up because there is not yet freedom. So we blend our story, our moment of memory of freedom, with the ongoing struggle of so many others. The only thing that we've done wrong is wait in the wilderness too long. Keep your eyes on the prize, hold on. The only thing that we've done right is the day we begun to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize, hold on. Hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize, hold on. Page 40. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Keep your eyes on the prize, hold on, hold on. Nora tehilot, osef eleh. Keep your eyes on the prize, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize, hold on. The work that we do to lift up those who have less, these attentions we pay to the desire for freedom, reminds us that we have so much. And the blessings that we ask for, particularly in the evening at Hashkivenu, is that we are sheltered and we are held safe, particularly when there are still so many who do not have that shelter and safety. On page 42, the work we do with our families and our communities, our loved ones, just the work to find the space on Shabbat. We ask for a sukkah of shalom, a shelter, to guide us on our way. These two melodies are two ways that we can think about what that is. The first, Max Helfman, who came to America from Poland, was born in 1901, came by 1910, became a talented musician and a wonderful Jewish composer. And he sings of a hashkivenu, of a spread of peace that is comforting and lovely. And then we'll sing Craig Taubman's melody from 1999, almost 100 years later, which reminds us that to build that sukkah takes all of us, that then we bring our voices together because we need each other for that security and that strength to go through our work together. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha v'taknenu beitza tova milfanecha v'hoshienu leman shemecha. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu As we prepare for the tefillah, a kavanah, an intention for how we might approach this time of prayers of our community and prayers of our heart. Why is it that we ask God for things when we pray? Do we imagine that if we didn't ask, God would know exactly what it is that we wanted? Do we think that an all-knowing God maybe wanted to give us a certain gift, but because we didn't ask for it in the right way, was deciding not to, or because we were very earnest in our prayer, might then do so? Do you think God's mind has changed? Or perhaps with flattery and effusion of praise, we will get everything we've asked for? Most likely not. So there's an analogy used by a teacher, Leon Modena. And he explains this. Imagine that there's a man sitting on a boat on a lake, and he is pulling himself by means of a rope back to the shore. But to someone standing very far away, it might appear the way he is pulling that rope that he is pulling the shore closer to himself. But of course we know it is only the boat that moves. He is pulling himself closer to the shore, but from far away, it looks like he is moving the shore. So perhaps, Modena explains, people think they are moving God when they are actually moving themselves. We are the boats, and God is the shore. We don't move God. We pull ourselves closer. God doesn't need our flattery, but we need reminders of God's greatness. God doesn't change in response to our prayers. We change. God remains unfathomable, but with each earnest prayer, we come to understand ourselves a little bit better. With each pull, we draw closer to God. And then, if our prayer draws us closer to God, then the prayer has indeed been answered. We rise for the tefillah on page 46. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imateinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, umatir hasurim, umekayem emunato lishene afar, michamocha bal gevurot, umido melach, melech memit umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'emana tal hachayot hakol, Baruch ata Adonai, mechaye hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalalucha selah. Baruch ata Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. We end our tefillah, these section of our prayers, with a prayer for peace, reminding us not that peace is something like pulling God towards us from shore, but that we are to do the work, that we are the peacemakers in our world. Page 62. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. We take a few moments for personal reflection and meditation.
Even as our souls are made joyous by the melodies of Shabbat, and soothed by being together in sacred community. We recognize there are those this Shabbat who aren't feeling that sense of oneg, that sense of simcha, those who are suffering from ailments of mind, of body, of spirit. We hold them in our hearts. We offer a Mishaberach prayer on page 253. As we ask God to be by their side, as we ask for guidance for the hands of their healers, as we remind ourselves of the work we have to do to take away 1/60th of their pain. I invite you to share aloud in the space you are in, perhaps, or in the comment box if you choose, the names of those you are thinking of in need of healing this evening, as together we pray, Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh HaCholim, blessed are you, God, who heals the sick.
To make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha. Those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. I've been thinking a lot the past couple of weeks with the beginning of what could be baseball season. There have been lots of rainouts and lots of questions about what will happen with athletics. I think a lot about singing the national anthem in a stadium, right? We love that sense. Most people who go to a game of any kind will know the national anthem, and there's a sense of strength, even if you're there with two different rivalry teams, of singing the national anthem together. And frankly, we can't really imagine that there would be some other melody, some other way to sing the national anthem. I also think about familiar melodies like that immediately communicate something to a community, remind us of sort of who we are and what our shared heritage is. Let's say being in America, not even North America, but America, of singing our national anthem. Well, I also think about Happy Birthday. I suspect there are many people watching this Shabbat who have perhaps celebrated a milestone birthday. And if we were all together, I might ask you who has turned 70 or 80. Maybe there's someone who has a birthday today or yesterday and is sort of thinking about what that is. And we have a bar mitzvah, right? So I'm not sure exactly when your birthday is, but it's this momentous event. And we have the one happy birthday song. I watch a lot of Netflix, and we watch French programs and programs all around the country, and there's often moments of happy birthday, and it's the same melody. We can talk about the history of the melody another time. And we can't imagine a different melody for it. We sing it the same way everywhere. The interesting thing for me that I've been thinking about, I recently attended a birthday of someone who turned 90, was for those of us who have been with children or around children, We have the same happy birthday melody at a 5-year-old's birthday party where we all launch into happy birthday to you, but there's usually chaos and noise and somebody's crying and there's balloons and cake. And then I was at this birthday party for a beloved 90-year-old friend, and we all sang happy birthday to you. And it makes me think the experiences are so different from a 90-year-old or a 50-year-old or a 13-year-old and a 5-year-old. But we have the same sort of melody. But what's happening in that moment is radically different. When we sing to the 90-year-old, we're celebrating the fullness of a life, of all that. I often think, like, what was her life like? What must she have seen that we did? How would she feel about cell phones? There's that. And a young child, there's this future and the joy and the cacophony and chaos of youth. Happy birthday to, but the song is the same. It makes me wonder. And so, of course, I think about our worship and the melodies, the things that give voice to our liturgy. I'm often asked as a cantor, why are there so many melodies? Is it that you're bored, or why do we have to have so many tunes for everything? Well, just like with happy birthday, yes, we could have the same one, but I'd like to think that part of our relationship with our prayer and as Jews is that we express so many different things. That's part of perhaps why we gather in prayer, whether we come in person or we watch online or we gather with friends to say prayers, is that we're trying to highlight and articulate moments of our lives that are meaningful. We come to say Kaddish, or we come to celebrate a joy, or we just come because we love to be together. But that's a very personal and emotional thing. So, of course, our melodies would represent that. Our personal experiences always change. And so while we might like the comfort of the national anthem or of Happy Birthday, singing the same song as a group, worship is organic for us. It changes because we always change. We are not the same at 90 as we were when we were 5. And when we sing prayers, which are about our yearnings and our confusion and our insistence for peace and our anxiety about the world and our gratitude and love for one another, we can't really have the same melody to express that all of the time. Particularly because every time we experience prayer, every Shabbat we come, if you came last week or a few weeks before, we are different. I'm a different person today than I was a week ago. I had my second vaccine this week. So if we were to sing a moment of modim, of gratitude, my modim, my thanks, is very different on this Shabbat than it was last Shabbat. My sense of prayer and hopefulness for the future and for freedom is very different after the news of this week than it was last week. Our prayers don't change, but we change, and our melodies are designed to paint that picture of all of the wonderful ways that we have changed as individuals and as a community. The challenge, of course, is made greater by the fact that each of our experiences are different. So what if what I'm experiencing at this Shabbat, the melodies might move me in a certain way, but they don't move you? That's the beauty of worship, a perfectly imperfect sense of when we come together, we acknowledge and lift each other up. I might be coming to mourn tonight, but when I see the joy of a bar mitzvah family, even though that might not be what I needed, I can appreciate that for others there's great simcha tonight. And so perhaps another evening I'll have melodies that are more soothing, but I can see the value of those moments for each other. We understand our neighbor and their experiences in new ways through the melodies of our prayer. And another thing to consider, and I'll share a few melodies with you, is that our communities are also very diverse and very different. We no longer look the same. We're no longer all Ashkenazic. We're not all from Ashkenazi, what we would call sort of European, Eastern and Western European backgrounds. We're Sephardic Jews and Mizrahi Jews and people who've come into the Jewish community in a variety of ways, people who are of color and have different traditions in their background, different memories and histories. We all have those stories, and our music represents them all. And the beauty, the opportunity of all of this music in our worship, even if it's not always our favorite melody, is that someone in the room might need that moment exactly the way it is. Or something may have happened to us in our world that makes that melody just the right melody. So I'm just going to sing briefly as an example before we conclude our service of a few samples of Vishamru, which you can find if you want to have the words just to follow along because it might help. On page 44 of your Siddur, Vishamru, like Michamocha, there are hundreds of melodies. The first is that Vishamru comes right out of Torah, comes right out of Exodus. So if we were to chant it from Exodus, when it says that the Israelite people shall keep Shabbat, it shall be a sign, Oti, the Dorotam, for all generations, it would sound like this. I should probably have my glasses on. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'dorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti le'olam. Ki sheishet yamim, asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, uvayom hashvi'i, shavat vayinafash. So that's trope, that's Vishamru. There's not one melody, that's actually the way it would sound from Torah. This is a melody from Kochko, Adolf Kochko, and I would call it word painting. You wouldn't need to know necessarily all the Hebrew or the English to get a sense of what Shabbat was as such a gift to all of us. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'dorotam. Those are the generations stretched out. Berit olam, beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, 6 days God did the stuff. Et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, uvayom hashvi'i, shavat vayinafash. Perhaps that evokes for you a beautiful and restful Shabbat, or a sense of what we're being asked, what the text is teaching us. And then there's Vishamru, many of us know by Rothblum. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'dorotam berit olam. And that's one that many people know is familiar and comfortable for those who grew up with it. And it's joyful and it's celebratory and it just reminds us of getting together. But I also imagine that if there's been a week in our community and in the world where perhaps something sad or hard, or we're coming together for a host of other reasons, and that the joy of Shabbat isn't what we're looking for, but we're looking for just a breath. Sometimes we're just so tired, or we're broken and fragile from our week, and we still honor Shabbat, but the gift that it gives us to breathe or to lean on one another. So perhaps we would sing this, one of Debbie Friedman's melodies for Vishamru. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'dorotam, berit olam, berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam. Ki sheishet yamim. Sometimes it just feels hard, and Shabbat gives us a chance to strengthen each other and one another. And the last Vishamru that I imagine also when there's joy and celebration, and just even if we're tired, I need to get up and dance and feel alive and feel grateful and feel free. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, Vishamru. Last time. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat la'asot et HaShabbat ledorotam berit olam. That melody by Craig Taubman. There's so many more and melodies to all of our prayers to just remind us that each of us comes to every space a little different, and all of us together are different, but we celebrate as one, and we acknowledge that each other is moving through our prayers. The prayers don't change, but we change as people and as a community, and our melodies give us this wonderfully joyful way to highlight each of those journeys that we go through on our path. Shabbat Shalom. I think we continue now with Aleinu L'Shabeach. I need to find the page. For Aleinu.
Just to prove that I'm still here, can I suggest the
knew
bottom
you were
of page
there.
282?
That would be great. Thank you. I used the bigger book with the bigger numbers, so my
Ooh, or 598 if you're following in the big
That's what I
volume.
was going to say. I should have done that. The bottom of the page. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol la'tet gedula liotzer breshit shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama shelo sam chelkenu kahem v'goralenu kecho hamonam va'anachnu korim ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. 287 ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Sometimes, perhaps, we can feel all of those melodies for Vishamru at the very same time. We feel a sense of joy. We feel a sense of loss. We feel a sense of simcha with the onset of Shabbat and the chance to be together. We feel a sense of loss and sadness for those lives tragically taken from this world in this past week, and from our family and friends who have passed away at this time in years past. Our congregational family remembers so many this Shabbat. We mourn the death of David Rasko, who was laid to rest in recent days, and observe the period of Shloshim for Diane Holsinger. This Shabbat we mark the yahrzeit, the commemoration of the passing of Sam Barrick, Ellis J. Budin, Celia Kaplan, N. Hart Cohen, A. Harry Cohn, Dominic Di Ferdinando, William Diskin, Milton Egger, Joseph L. Ehrenrich, Phyllis Felder, A. Morris Ginsburg, Edith Glosser, Alan Gorin, Susan Gross, Carol Herman, Bernard Katz, Louis Kossoff, Robert Irving Lacey, Minnie Landish, Adolf Lebovitz, Morris Liss, Betty Mahler, Isidore Meyer, Bernice Ida Myers, Lydia Paris, Eleanor Plattner, Samuel J. Rideboard, Sadie Diskin Resnick, Sidney Robbins, Alfred Rosen, Patty Rosenberg, Howard Schrute, Mark Silberman, Rosalie Silverman, Stanley Slifkin, Emmanuel Small, Toby Lee Steiner, Jack Tabor, Murray Tropp, Judy Auerbach, Roddy S. Verk, Gail Mahler Weinstein, Henrietta Zients. We hold each of them in our heart And we remember those from your family and friends who have passed away. I invite you to share their name aloud if you would, calling their memories to the front of your mind as a soothe, as a salve over the hole in our hearts. As we say, Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for us an everlasting blessing. Words of Kaddish Yatom, our mourner's Kaddish, can be found on page 294. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chaye chon uvyome chon, uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala v'izman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ulamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha barich hu le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechmata damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May God, who makes peace in the highest of heavens, make peace for us and for all who mourn. And together we say, Amen. Cantor Rosalie Will, I am so excited that you have joined us for this Shabbat, that you have been not only our leader of prayer, but our teacher of Torah, both with a capital T and a lowercase t, the wisdom of our tradition and the wisdom of this day. Thank you so much for honoring us with your presence this evening, and thank you to everyone who has joined us. As you can see, I am in the Beit HaTefilah. We are working out the systems. We're putting into place the mechanisms that are going to make it so that we can begin welcoming you back here, God willing, soon. We've got our eyeballs on the middle of May as our staff, as our clergy, as our song leaders are vaccinated. Hopefully you are getting close to that moment as well, that we could all be together in song and in prayer, though of course we will continue this virtual sacred community. Live streaming, being hybrid, is a part of who we are now, is a part of what every congregation is now, and we look forward to that day when we have a choice. So Cantor Will, let me turn us back over to you for words of a special closing song with just one last reminder to my community. That is, on April 25th, we might join in a special 7 o'clock info session for Federation's 2022 mega mission to Israel. It seems crazy to be planning a vacation this far away, but if you've got the travel bug like I do, you are looking forward to any chance to get out of your own four walls and to be able to travel to the land of Israel together with the city of Pittsburgh, together with Temple Emmanuel of South Hills. I hope you'll join us for that wonderful session, or just shoot me an email. Send me an email at your convenience that I might get back to you with some more information about this wonderful trip. And with that, Cantor.
I love that, and maybe I'll try to join you. I'd love to go to Israel, but in this moment when we celebrated Yom HaAtzmaut this past week, we can turn our hearts toward Israel with the anthem of Israel, not sung at a ball game, but sung to acknowledge what it is that people can do when they feel strong and feel supported and feel like the dreams that they have built for themselves can become a reality. So if you like to rise, even if you don't have a flag, but you feel comfortable standing to sing Hatikvah with our community, but if not, where you are seated, it is on page 374, the very back of your Siddur. So to think about that 2022 trip to Israel, or whenever you go, or if you've ever been, or even if not, this dream of ours has become a reality and continues to be a place of hope and of peace. Kol od balei